Cool. Got it. Good evening, folks, and welcome to it. It's Monday night, so you know what that means. It's time for us to reconvene here on the interwebs via Zoom. My usual panel on myself will be going through what's been happening as far as the weekend's results are concerned in the DSTV Premiership. And of course, there was also some CAF action that also took place and some news that's coming in slowly about the fate of one of the coaches who was in action at the weekend and his side not managing to get a good result. We'll discuss that in greater detail in a few moments' time. Let me welcome my panel. It's made up this evening of Kelvin Sosibo, and I also have Greg Atafia. We are to be joined by Timothy Batabayer and Velile Mnyandu also later this evening. So just to get things started, I'm joined by these two gents. Good evening. Welcome to the show, guys.
Good evening, Kabza.
Good evening to everybody.
There we go. There's so much space around you, Greg. I feel like the other empty seats next to you are giving me anxiety. You must fill them with someone or put like jerseys or something, soccer jerseys or a soccer ball next to you. Gents, welcome. Let's look at the show. I mean, coming up, we're going to discuss all the weekends games, but let's start with the big one as far as, I don't know, maybe unexpected. Maybe we saw some teams playing against other teams or bigger teams and playing out of their socks. But one such game saw Royal AM get a famous victory against Kaizer Chiefs. Gents, what do you make of this one? Let's start with you, Kelvin. What do you make of Chiefs' performance? The coach gave in to the public pressure, people requesting that he plays in Ngobo. He did that. But I don't think it went according to plan. If you ask any Kosi fan, how did you see it?
Yeah, I think the coach made a blunder there. He should have stuck to his gun by saying that he's still going to give Ngobo a time to get into the game. I think the whole tactics on the day went horribly wrong, and Maduka capitalized on that. It was good to see that with Royal AM being so confident and being so possessive of the ball, and also look like from the word get-go that they were a better team compared to Kaizer Chiefs. Also, in a way, coach, also in his tactics, he started rushing things on the last minutes. Now putting players that he was supposed to start with, he ended with them, meaning that he still doesn't have the confidence on the team itself. He hasn't built a stronger body to compete because the results are telling on their own. So if you are a coach that has mastered and understand your changing room, we should have seen a better result. At this point, it looks like he's still disorientated and it's disorganized. It's all up to him now. Yes, I know the fans are calling for his head at the moment. We might say it's still early times, but at the end of the day, these points count when you go to the wire.
Yeah, Greg, I mean, to that point, what does Stuart Baxter have as far as wiggle room, fans calling for his head? We know Chiefs aren't the kind of trigger happy club. They'll probably see it through with him. But what does he need to start doing besides winning? Obviously, he must settle on a ideal starting 11. How close do you think he is to finding his best team?
It's very far from being close, because you need to get ideal team in terms of when you're winning, because right now he has to keep changing because they haven't won, for a very long time now in terms of what Chiefs supporters are expecting from him, because with the record they have, coming back to Chiefs, it's either two ways. He's gonna pile up like this or he's gonna start winning again. But so far he hasn't, there's not much we can really speak about because the teams need to start winning now. Because my greatest surprise under Stuart Baxter, after 4 games, Kaizer Chiefs have conceded 7 goals, and only scored 3. The last time I remember by this time, they only conceded 2 goals, in 4 games when he won that league. So I just feel like, there's a lot of pressure, in terms of what the Kaizer Chiefs supporters are expecting. And going to that game against Roy, it was just something else, it was just something else. No one expects that result. But if you don't prepare well, or if you succumb to pressure, as you know, yeah, as you say, playing players because of you have to play them, to please other people. I just feel like that's the result that's going to come out, because it's two ways, in Javulo, could have played at the weekend and the team win, and all of a sudden, yeah, everyone will say that we told you that he's a good player, which we know that he's a very good player. So, but one player cannot make a team, because you need everyone to be in the same page. For me, on that day, Kaiser Chiefs, the whole back line, they were not in the same page, because trying to play high line against a team that play a low block, in terms of playing in the transition counter-attack, I just feel it was a suicide, and you have defenders that, for me, anything in front of them, yeah, they can deal with it, but things behind them, in terms of playing behind them, is always difficult, and when you have a team like Kaiser Chiefs in the midfield, there's no pressure in terms of the midfielders of Royal AM picking the pass, playing behind the defense of Kaiser Chiefs, Cardoso and Jabulo, Mato. It's always going to be a disaster. You can't play high line when you play back three, except you have the players that can go forward and come back. And for me, they just, it's just something they need to change. That's back four and that back three or five at the back, I think is not working right now. So they need to change something. But there's a lot of elements that we can think about that is going into the game in terms of players playing out of position. On my opinion, I think Frostler should be playing that team because it's a natural right back. Take back Bloom to the midfield because he's energetic. He has that movement. He got good foot work. So he can help in that midfield, because that midfield, I think there's not a lot of mobility in that midfield, because anything that passes that midfield, and the defense, there's much they can do, they cannot any defense when, players running at them every time like that. So I just think the plan didn't work that day, and you didn't expect Royal AM to score four goals. I mean, the last goal was a beauty, I mean, the last goal, that was a super class goal, So, but they have to go to the drawing board. I think the drawing board now, there's no space now in that drawing board now, So they just need to start winning. That's what they need to do.
Okay, Greg. Let's get Mr. Batabayer in here because, he's got some skin in the game here. It is essentially your former club, Tim, in Bloom Celtic, now Royal AM, who managed to get this big victory. But you yourself, as a former defender, looking at how that back three or back five are operating for Kaiser Chiefs, what's missing? Is it just an understanding of each other? Is it just a matter of minutes on the park together? Or are these things that should have been resolved and figured out to a working purpose in training already before the weekend's games? Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good evening to my colleagues and our listeners. It's very important to know that so much is wrong in the backline of Kaiser Chiefs. One is that they don't have a number one goalkeeper at this moment in time. And that's very crucial to the backline. And the defenders don't seem to understand whether they're going to be in the team this week or next week. So there's that lack of understanding, lack of confidence individually amongst the players. Surprisingly, I think it's only Sundowns as a team that has got the most skillful, comfortable players on the ball. And they have not tried to risk to play three at the back. So when I'm seeing Kaiser Chiefs team with three at the back, and they don't have midfielders who are closing down any person with the ball, that is a recipe for a disaster, because at the end of the day, you want to play a high line, there's no pressure on the ball, and you have a team of AM they are very comfortable on running off the shoulders of the defenders, and they are very fast. So for me, that was a recipe for a disaster. It was a matter of one goal to go in, and they grow into confidence, and that's what happened. So if really Chiefs intends to build a squad that's going to be competitive and challenge at this moment in time, they need to know their line of defense. They have to identify who is going to be their number one goalkeeper. Either it's Kune, Akpe, or Vumba. Because once you don't get that, the defenders are not going to have that confidence to compete. So for me, they are trying to concentrate on the attack. but you can't attack well in a team of football when your backline is leaking goals. So for me, that's a worry on my part. Yes, I had the coach making comments like it's embarrassing, to concede 4 goals. When you say it's embarrassing, it comes out to my understanding as if the coach automatically thought that they're going to win the game. If players of Chiefs came into the game thinking that they have already beat AM, we are not surprised we're talking about a 4-1 difference. And that last when they last considered, I think it was then Platinum Stars, something like that beat them 4 goals. So Kaizer Chiefs conceding 4 goals at this moment in time, they need to put, like Craig had said, that there's no more space on the drawing board. I would want to agree with Craig that if you're competing with the likes of Sundowns, Pirates, the margin to error to drop so many points doesn't anchor well for Chiefs at this moment in time.
Calvin, I mean, we'll talk about, obviously, in the mix as well as Brandon Peterson. He played at the weekend. It still feels like Baxter's trying to find the right pieces for his puzzle. Is he someone who is in a continuous building phase as far as, he still needs another window, maybe the January one, to get in a couple more bodies? Or do you think he should be turning things around and getting the desired results at this point in time already with an sort of fit Keegan Dolly, a sort of acclimatized Ngowo, as he'll tell us, other pieces of the puzzle that, are getting comfortable? Or do you think by now we should be starting to see the fruit of the work?
Definitely. We should be starting to see the fruit of the works by now. They've signed players on missing position. Now it's a matter of which personality do you put, which personality do you trust for you to do the job at the end of the day. Because all those players that they request, not maybe much of them, but they've put players that were required on the position. They are there. The only thing that they need to find right now is actually the minutes on the pockets and also getting players to understand how the coach wants them to play. It has proven that playing on transition all the time is not working. There's times where teams do know your strategy, and if it's the only strategy that you have, that's a recipe for disaster. So at this point, we for us to see these players coming to fruition and players coming alive, the Keegan Dollies, the Billiards, the Nokovic, who is misplaced in his play off position. Like Kaizer Chiefs right now, what they really need is actually have Nokovic back to his original position, because the way he's playing is an absentee on the match. You don't really see him in the way that Baxter wants to play. The more he drifts wider, he takes out the threat out of the opposition's team, and they have a luxury. Those center defense of Royal AM, they had a luxury at the end of the day. They know Nokovic is there, they will bully them. But how do you use such an aerial, such a person which got aerial presence to play him on the side? He's the one that is crossing for who to head. You're expecting Billiards to head in comparison to Nokovic. No, that's wrong. I think at the end of the day, the coach is getting the tactics wrong, and he's putting himself under pressure at this point. Should he manage the team well? He had time to work with them when they were still playing at the CAF finals, where he would have said, okay, now coming back, even though they never had much of a preseason, but we're talking about players that have been playing week in, week out, which are called to come and rescue Chiefs' situation. And it's up to you as a coach to start finding the formula on the road. As an experienced coach, I would have thought that he would have done a little bit a professional job in him knowing as it comes to Chiefs. This is what Chiefs struggle with. This is how they drop point. This is how they are not scoring. But don't bring in the same strategy that you used with a different personality that you had back then, because you had players that were working for you, that were getting the results and the understanding of the game model that you wanted to play, which is always on transition. But at this time, you got a mixed of players who's still behind in terms of the system that you're trying to play, and they are not adapting well. So save the energy, build from the back, and also, as Tim has mentioned, let us have a number one goalkeeper for Chiefs. We're not picking up names at this time, but we're saying let us have a number one goalkeeper at the team, so then the team can build confidence behind that keeper going forward.
Okay, well, there we go. I mean, Greg, that's an important point to have that reference point in between goal. But yeah, it looks like for Chiefs, the problems are at the back and at the front. In goal, they don't have a number one. Up front, the Samir Nukovic experiment out wide. I mean, I think there was a chance that felt to come out at the weekend that you think to yourself, if Nukovic was in that position, he might have been able to do something with it. What's happening? You know, if you're a player looking at this, someone who's played the game, seeing a coach using players out of position, seeing players not responding, what's going on? Simply put, what do you think is happening?
There's a lot of things that is happening, you know. I mean, if you take out of 100%, you know, 70% of the players, they were excited when Basta was announced as a coach of Kaizer Chiefs. But right now, they're not really putting the work in terms of results, because results is the final justification in terms of how's the team looking, or what are they doing, or what's the progress? Because, you know, there's a lot of elements, you know, you can point to. Nukovic going back to be the top striker, which, you know, as you know, the colleagues have alluded to, that is his right full position, because, you know, playing on the left side, he gets frustrated most of the time. And Nukovic is one player you can get under his skin and he's off the game. You know, he just, you know, you can see him again. But with saying that, even Nukovic going back to the striking position in terms of the reference of the team, you need a firstler. You need a firstler to play the right back to get the crosses. Nukovic goals, you know, the statistics have shown that most of the goals is scored coming from the right side. The Champions League have proven that. So you need some ammunition that can deliver for him. Clancy can do that with his eyes closed, but you need Frostler to be there so that it can be both sides, you know, so it can be both sides that cross come to him, because he's tried with his area present in terms of set piece, in terms of corner kicks. That's where he's tried. Holding the ball, you know, playing his back behind with the defense, that's not his strength. But, you know, in terms of attacking the ball, you know, that's his strength. And we know that sometimes he finishes with his foot, left foot or right foot, but most of the goals he scored with his head. So I just think on, you know, Kaizer Chiefs, they need to go back to the drawing board. If there's space in that drawing board, they need to rectify a lot of things, you know. going back to the goalkeeping side, I just think, you know, you can't have a team like Kaizer Chiefs. They don't know the number one. It's just unacceptable, because going to the season, the goalkeeper coach either say that this is my number one. You can, you know, come out in the media and say everyone is number one. But in back of your mind, the head coach, the goalkeeper coach, you know, this is my number one, this is my number two, this is my number three. But at the moment now, you know, under the new season now, I think everyone has gotten his chance. You think about Bruce have gotten his chance, Cooney have gotten his chance, Peterson have gotten his chance. I just feel sorry for him. He came at the wrong time. I think it's left for Daniel now to get his chance, so that you can know that everyone has played, because, you know, that's the most important thing now the coach need to look for, because when you have a stable goalkeeper, you have a lot of international in terms of their personality or their experience. I think you need to have a number one, which is vital. You have, that's part of the team. A center back, a midfielder, a striker. You cannot just change that. You can change people around them, but you need to have that now at this moment.
Craig, I have a feeling you are being economical with the truth. I'm sure as a goalkeeper coach, you very well assure your goalkeepers that this is number one, this is the second choice, this is the third choice. Yes, there are those cases that come once in a blue moon where the third choice will become the number one in that moment. But always, once the first choice is available, the goalkeeper should know it. There's a misguided approach to propel or to encourage competition in players and goalkeepers. And it's misguided. We have seen it in Europe. You know, you have got a player that, you know, if Ronaldo is not injured, he's going to be on the field of play, irrespective of how legal it is, like that. That has to be the players to build.
My point is, like, you know, you see, it's a new coach. I think this is his first full season for a long time, apart from when he won the championships for Kaizer Chiefs. So he needs to give everyone chance. As we glamour for Njabulu to get a chance. So everyone deserves a chance. But you cannot, in that expense, losing game, because you are losing game, now you start giving everybody a chance. No, You need to trust a core of the team. But
Yeah.
in that span of the goalkeeper, centre back, a midfield, and a striker, those ones cannot be tempered. You know, those ones, you know that, okay, you have to put the trust. You see they're improving in terms of the ratio, in terms of attacking wise, or in terms of defensive wise, or in terms of creating chances, or in terms as a goalkeeper, you are doing the right thing. Maybe you concede goals, it's not your fault, but it doesn't mean that you're overnight you're a bad goalkeeper. So what I'm trying to say is you need to get number one and back him up.
The point that is very clear, and I need to point it out, is that a team of Kaizer Chiefs caliber, there is no giving anybody a chance. When you're a Kaizer Chiefs player, every day of your life, you know you should be ready to play. Once called upon, you should be able to deliver. There's no, it's not an upcoming team that everybody is given a chance. This one is a youngster.
Team. If the team is not winning, definitely a winning team should be kept. But if the team is not winning, you have to give others a chance, because you have other 30 players, you have 25 players. You cannot say the team is losing, and all of a sudden you say, no, I don't want to give anybody a chance. You continue losing. No, you have to give others a chance.
So are you suggesting that there is gambling in the selection of players?
Not gambling. If the team is not winning, if the team is not winning, a winning team stays. If a team lose 1 or 2 games and they don't play well, I mean, the way they lost at the weekend, the whole team, that 11 players should move away, set on that new 11 to play.
No.
If it can be like that.
But Greg, you can't change all 11 players, surely. I mean, you can't do that. You have to be strategic in who you bring in and take out.
Kevin, what I'm trying to say, they played very bad. There's no one player you're going to point out that is a standout in that game. There's no one player. Let's be sincere. There's no one player.
Yeah, but you can't break down the whole house though, Greg. You know what I mean?
What is important is you're gonna have those games when you're gonna have a bad game. Unfortunately, the 11 players didn't have a good game at the office in the evening. But what I'm looking at, even when the team is playing poorly, surely you should play for the badge. You should play for your teammate next to you. If I'm having a bad game, I expect my next player close to me, to try and cover my ill performances in the game. That's what I expect from my teammate. So in this case, it was very disappointing. But I guarantee you, if I was in Baxter's position, I would maintain the same team that lost 4-1 in the next game. And I demand a response from my players. I wouldn't go about changing, because then you won't have a team. The same team was the best team thought to have brought the 3 points, and they did not. I think they need to back them up and demand that they perform over and above themselves to rectify what they did against Royal AM.
Well, that is a fair consideration, Tim. And I think, let's see. Maybe there is some psychological benefit in doing that, giving these players an opportunity to atone for that result against the Royal AM. But let's give credit where it's due. John Maduka, with very skilled resources, able to pull out some big results from time to time, but also some big occasions, having to been the finals with these teams. Here's a coach who's working under immense pressure, Kelvin. They had to uproot all the players in themselves from the Free State to KZN and somehow get back into the business of playing football normally, with an abnormal situation surrounding them. How do you think he's done so far, and what will this victory do now for them moving forward, Royal AM? We know how these sometimes so-called smaller teams do pick up their performances for the big sides, but did you see enough from there to see a character in this Royal AM team to be like this for the rest of the season? Or do you think they're going to be struck by what most teams in this league struggle with, and that's consistency?
Yeah, I think one of it is consistency, that the wheels might come off. At this point, they're still on the high. I think when you're playing against Kaizer Chiefs, you don't need no motivation. Any player, Greg can tell you, Tim can tell you, when you play Kaizer Chiefs, it's always one of those motivating games, because you just want to do well, because you're competing with one of the best. So once you're thrown into that pool, you itching to play, to show them that the quality that they have, and you knowing how to play this game that we so love. We just want to deliver at the end of the day, because remember, when you're playing against Chiefs, windows is always open. If you do well, it will always be considered as one of the most important parts on players, which they would love to play for one of these big teams, Sundowns, Pirates, Chiefs. So again, when you play them, it's as if you are marketing yourself. You're sending your resume to them to have a look at you. Yes, with Maduka, he has done absolutely well, and I think he has raised his hand with the skin resources that he has and the challenges that they face. I would say kudos to him to marshalling his team marshalling his team to have more confidence and coming at this game and then win by 4-1. Nobody expected this score results, but I think he's done something to the boys. If it's only a matter of them have followed the full game plan, because if you look at Chiefs, they still came with a bank of 3 at the back, as we've covered, and then overpacked the middle, which versus a team that came with a 4-3-3, meaning the domination was always in the middle, and this is a battle that they've never won. Up front, for Royal AM, this is where we saw that Royal AM was always good on the counter-attack. So it was transition less on them, which is Chiefs' best weapon that they had. But it worked against them, because as we saw, the goals that were scored, the first one, all defenders at the back were caught facing their own goal. And me and Tim will tell you that that's suicide. You are never caught like that. And they are caught square. The ball that went behind them and a striker coming from behind to sneak in and score a goal, that is unacceptable, because if you're going to defend so thin at the back, you need to always communicate, because what does it mean if you set up like that? It means you are willing to build up at the back, because if they send a bank of 2 to press you up, it means you have a room, because you still have a goalkeeper as an outlet to take you out from a situation. For you to go into the second phase of attack, which is in the middle. And then up front, you are still playing flat with a striker being moved wide. Maybe the idea was for Kama to play between the lines and always find space behind because of his speed. But that didn't work much, because Nekovic was the lesser person in terms of defending, who was caught always late. And then Royal AM always had an opportunity to take advantage of his recovery level. That's why all those goals were scored. And also the subs that were made. It feels as if all those subs that were made were not prepared for this game mentally. It's just like they said to them, warm up, you coming in. It was like, it was shocking for them, because you saw the Maveliso also, how he, when he got in, unlucky from that deflection, and then it was a goal. But even him, knowing very well that you are playing 3 at the back, just try and then minimize not moving too much up front, because as you move 2 full backs going up, you always leave spaces behind it, which is where Royal AM find joy on the wing. Most of their goals came from there.
Well, there we go. So the characteristics of Suelele is still coming through in John Maduka's Royal AM side. Different new uniform, but same old stuff inside the tin, as they got themselves a good victory at the weekend, beating Kaizer Chiefs. Stuart Baxter will now have much food for thought as far as still trying to find his best 11. Right now, it just seems like it's a concoction, a mixed bag of just throwing players in the mix, and some rising to the top. I think some of the new acquisitions have put up their names, like we say, a fully fit Keegan Dolly is going to be quite something. They still need to figure out how they're going to use Samir Nikovic, a coach who under Ernst and maybe less so under Gavin Hunt was quite successful for the team. I think, Stuart Baxter might need to have to pick up the phone and call Ernst Middendorf just to find out, how do I get the best out of this guy? I think most people will say to him, try and make him the center of the attacking project. Okay, let's keep it moving. Chippa United in action at the weekend. Speaking of Gavin Hunt, his side went down 3-1 to Orlando Pirates. Pirates now seemingly just, finding a bit of a groove with their co-coaches. What have you made of the results of late, the mini revolution, Greg, that you think might be happening under co-coaches Fadlu Davids and Mandla Nligazi? Are you seeing something different in this Pirates side, or are they able to extract something that coaches like JZ weren't able to do before?
No, I'm seeing something big different. What I'm seeing in the Pirate team now is they're able to mix things, they're able to mix things now in terms of playing wise. Most most time when you play Pirates, you always have that Pirate team that want to always attack you and without taking care of the defensive side. But this time now, they don't play. Okay, let me just put. They don't play too much superstars in terms of they just always when you're on the ball, that's when you play. They play players now that they can attack and defend. Which Pirate now they can do both. So I just think there's too much energy in that team in terms of never give up attitude. Because when them going down 1-0 down and they never panic, they still play the same way Pirates playing, and they went forward and they got their goal, and from there on, when Pirates get a goal like that, they're always going to be on the front foot in terms of try to score more, and they did that on the weekend. I just think this is a different Pirate team. I think Mandla and Fadu they're cooking something that will be super to watch in this season. And I'm just so happy now the way everyone is combining in terms of you have the Tyson, you have the JLA, the defensive line now. Just here and there there's lapses, but it's just not often again. Because the Pirates of last season. When you score them one goal, there's that panic mode now. All of a sudden, everything, become disarray in terms of how they defend now. But they still keep their structure. They're losing one knee. They still keep their structure. That's how they got their goals. In the midfield, there's a lot of mobility. There's a lot of players that are willing to go to attack and defend. And that's the most important part in every team, So, and strikers, Pirates always have strikers that they can score. So I'm just so happy for the team, and they're doing very well. I just think they can build from here going forward.
Tim, I mean, they've made some changes. That midfield is usually one that's a characteristic of Ben Motshwari. You've got Makaringe and Monari, usually the staples there. But now you're seeing Tsako Makubela, you're seeing Mabaso and Goodman Masele coming through and making those positions theirs for themselves, because we're speaking about squad competition and composition, and it seems like the two co-coaches at Pirates have got the blend right, where there's enough of the quality players around to keep the ones that start honest and playing to their maximum, as we saw at the weekend.
Look, there's one ingredient that is prevalent in this Pirates team, and that's there seems to be harmony. It seems the players feel a little bit more comfortable with their co-coaches. They seem to be willing to make the mistakes on the field of play. And once a player is willing to make the mistakes, it means that he's going to come out on tops because he's not scared of anything. So at this moment in time, they seem to have a very good rapport between the technical team and the players. Now, this is what I always say, that as a player of Chiefs, Pirates, Sundowns, you're always itching for an opportunity to present itself. In such a moment, once an opportunity presents itself, you are not better than the same player who plays in that position. It's just an opportunity to show what you can do, so that in the mind of the coach, you can always be considered for selection if an opportunity arises. Now, you're looking at the likes of Mabaso, Mosere, and Mukbera, who have solidified those positions. The Munares, the Makarenges are not bad players, but the difference is the willingness of the likes of Mabaso, Mosere, and Mukbera to leave everything on the field of play that will cement their position on the team. But for me, what is terrifying at this moment in time, it is the pace at which Pirates is playing right from the middle going into the final third. Their penetration, their willingness to run without the ball into those channels, willingly crossing the ball for a player who is in position to score, I think it is very threatening to the opponents. And if not checked, they will go on scoring so many goals, and they will try to have high numbers of goals by the end of the season.
Definitely, yeah. I also feel that one of the most important factors that got the Pirates the 3 goals was the system that was being applied and players showing up. The likes of Mabaso got a man of the match, Mosele, and the most important part now is having the number 9 at the top. Team Mabaso playing the number 9 role, help Pirates in those instances where anything that drops in the box, he finishes. Like the first goal that he got, from a shot that came in, controlled, and then finished in the box. You need those striker instance like Ronaldo, like how we saw on the weekend. Always lacking in the box, looking for those small pieces, those small pieces to convert a goal. A striker, you need somebody that will always be in the box in comparison to Nikovic, who is more now wider. Mabasa understands. He already scored 2 goals now, profiting from him always positioning himself in the box. And looking at a player like the Shandus, the Marco, for them to add more numbers in the midfield, it gives them a balance when they have to defend. And I think at the end of the day, Chipa, what they didn't do well was maybe trying to pressure the ball carrier on Orlando Pirates and also disturb them from their build-up play, because whenever they get into the middle, they didn't look stoppable by Chipa. You would feel that those 3 goals that they've scored were just easy goals, but Pirates really worked for those goals in their movement, and also Mabasa giving a headache to the defense of Chipa United. Hence, they got those goals.
News coming in today, obviously, was that of Ben Motshwari being suspended by the club. In the latest update, it seems like the common assault case opened against him was struck off the roll, pending investigation. The club hadn't given details of the charges he faced, but it would seem that it has something to do with him and his partner. According to police, Motshwari handed himself over after a case was opened by his alleged girlfriend. And so he handed himself over on Monday after a case of common assault was opened against him. The suspect was charged and taken to court. The docket was struck off the roll by the court pending further investigation. So not a good look for the club and for the player. GBV obviously being quite a serious issue afflicting us as a nation. The club were very quick to act, Greg, in this instance, to suspend Ben Motshwari. But, at the same time, you just wonder, like, is this what we're alluding to as being such a harmonious group? Do they really need one of their own making the headlines for all the wrong reasons?
Yeah, you need to applaud the club, most especially the chairman coming out to make sure that, he make a statement and, lets everyone know, the supporters and every football loving followers in the country that, this is not acceptable, but Pirates, they're not new in this part of, things, because of the field issue with Pirates, it's a lot of things that come out on the media, which you can't really, go into. I think, last season there was, a lot of things, we weren't talking about one of their best player, Lodge, that's, have a lot of issue of the field. I think last season it really affected them, but I think this season they really, try to handle a lot of things, in terms of the pitch issue, which is something that you as a team, you need to control, because I was in that scenario before in terms of at Swallows with one of our player, Larato Chabango, that superstar that on the field he can deliver for you, but off the field there's a lot of things going on with him. But we as a team, we stood behind him. We tried to talk to him and try to keep the story on the wrap. But when you're playing for Pirate Chiefs Sundowns, there's no place to hide, because whatever you do, definitely off the pit is gonna come, is gonna come on the light. And I just pray, he can learn from his mistake, because all this kind of situation, it's not acceptable. Mostly, as a player that you really want to progress and do well, and your team is on the front line to compete in terms of winning the league. So I think they needed him to be in the team. They needed him to contribute in his own part, but not this issue of the field. I think you need to just he personally you need to look for a way to try to sort out these issues.
Tim, how do you reintegrate a player like that, considering the serious charges? What's the best plan of action here for the club? Do they just let the law take its course, keep him out the mix as far as for as long as that process takes? What happens now?
Look, immediately the word goes out that the player has been charged. immediately the powers that be, that's what Pirates is. Actually, we should give them credit for their reaction. They took the right, they showed leadership irrespective of the caliber of player they have got, and immediately suspended him indefinitely. Now, there are always two sides to the coin. Now, if the charges have been withdrawn, it brings into the question the legitimacy of the charges. How do you manage such a player? How do you bring him back to the club at this moment in time? Because if you have suspended him indefinitely, he has to continue training privately to try and keep pace with the rest of the players. But also it's on the responsibility of the club to try and assist both the player and the fiancé in this moment in time to make sure that they reach an amicable understanding. What was the real cause? We are in an era of GBB and it's very serious. What is it that a player is saying vis-a-vis what the fiancé is saying? So it's a very serious case when it comes to all people involved, not only the player, not only the fiancé. We are talking about the club, the fans, all people come into play. Yes, the fans may be biased because they are looking at the player who can contribute to results at points, but we are talking about GBB, which is very serious. So at this moment in time, I applaud the club for making that giant decision to suspend the player indefinitely. Whatever will come from the investigations will give direction going forward, because we cannot use the platform of being a football player at this moment in time in this era to try and promote such kind of behavior. If it's wrong, then he needs assistance to try and come over it, and then we shall welcome him back after he has gone through rehabilitation.
Well, let's see what the road holds ahead for Ben Motshwari. Obviously, that is going to be in the limelight as far as that story is concerned, whilst the investigation is underway. Let's see what comes of it. Maybe, like Tim is alluding to, an amicable solution will be sorted out away from the eyes of the media and the public. We keep it moving on to the next results, and that was one that saw Mamelodi Sundowns just put TS Galaxy to the sword in a game where, once again, they just show that they don't have to make too many changes. They trust that squad. Musa Lebusa was the only change coming in for Tapolo Morena in this game, and he came into great effect, making the most of a set piece and the spilt shot to get onto the score sheet. Kelvin, the Sundowns machine, they're cruising, man. I mean, the coaches seem to be in harmony. It's still early days, and, they've got this momentum with them. How important is it, though, to make sure that they keep up these performances? And as we've seen, I mean, we were speaking about Chiefs earlier. They were playing in the Champions League, and we saw how you can play out of your skin when you're playing in such competitions. How well placed Sundowns for the next round of CAF action? And obviously, what impact will that have on the quality of the performances from them moving forward when they've started so strongly already?
Depth. Sundowns has that in abundance, and already the integration and their preseason is giving us the fruits of the tree that they've planted. So I think moving to CAF, the only competition that is available for them to really show us, because at this point, it looks like the competition is lesser on the PSL. The depth that they have, the changes that they may make, whether they make 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 changes, it's still the same Sundowns that will come gun blazing, with the coaches at the helm who are making sure that the tactics are well applied and executed. It is great to see that those coaches have been having problems of their own, but at the end of the day, they keep the players motivated and rooted in them and rooted in getting the result. Yes, you might still say that they are not the friendliest on each other on the bench, as when you see one would score when a player comes out, it looks like they go on one side, which is the coach that is standing. But at the end of the day, Sundowns is Sundowns with the personality and players that they have. We are not surprised where they are and how they play. Enterprising football, and teams will always have difficulty when it comes to Sundowns. Yes, TX Galaxy tried. They tried to play a defensive game, tried to hold Sundowns down, and break their consistent play, but it just went on the last minutes where lapse of concentration, the 2 goals were scored in a space of a minute, of 2 minutes. That shows that if you temper too much with Sundowns and they're really persistent and they work according to the instructions that they have, as they watch footages, your movement, how you're going to defend, your application of your system is very important. They watch, they pay attention to each and every detail to a club that they're going to play against, which as a result has given TX Galaxy that heavy score at the end of the day because coach made a blunder. The goals that were scored, also there were 3 at the back, also caught facing their own goal post and being scored on the far post with the oncoming Libusa netting a beautiful goal first time in the box. You're asking yourself, why at this level are players ball watching? Because as the ball was being crossed, you could anticipate that there was a player that is coming late into the box. Anything that is in the box requires defenders to clear. I don't think that you can coach, but what you know and the instruction as a coach that you'll put is, as a defender, the most important thing is not to allow the ball to go inside the net. We can talk about zonal, we can talk about spacing and what your responsibility is to make sure that the ball does not go to the net. As much as a striker, he cannot be coached on many things than to put the ball at the back of the net. I think the synergy and the motivation of Sundowns and them giving us and showing us that they really want to collect everything that is available as shown within the pedigree and the personality they have.
Yeah, I mean, they bring a player in to start, he scores. Shadulile stays consistent, he scores. They bring in one of the new players, Greg, in Kutumela, he gets on the score sheet. So, you know, you have this big squad with all these great pieces that you can work with. How do they keep them happy throughout the season? Or do you think as long as the team is winning, then the other players will buy in regardless?
Yeah, I mean, Sundowns is Sundowns. You know, we always tip them in terms of when the season starts, because what they do, they always scout the best players before the season starts, and they know where and where the players gonna fit in, and you can see the depth. You know, Kutumela. I mean, that it will never pass to anyone getting that chance and coming into the second half. You know, I just think it was a clinical goal from him. You know, the good thing about Sundowns in every department, apart from a Yango, if it goes maybe for a penalty, I think everyone can score from that team, you know. So it's a good vibe there. You know, you either join the train now when the train is moving, or they leave you behind, because, you know, when the train is moving, you know, you cannot really make too many changes. You just hope that, you know, once in a while you be in that big party, because that Sunday party, you know, you were in, you were out. I mean, the team you always expected to win, and for now, I just think there's a lot of too much quality in that team. You know, any PSL team to compete with that team now, for me, on my own view now, I think it's only Orlando Pirates in terms of, you know, yeah, giving them that push. You know, yeah, but you never know. You know, it's just the fourth game of the season. You never know how it's gonna pile up with the Champions League coming up. So when they start traveling down to, you know, playing the continental game, but nevertheless, the depth they have and everyone want to play. I said that by that time that's when we're gonna really judge them. You know,
Yeah.
but for now, what we're seeing now with them, I think, you know, they are unstoppable.
Can anybody stop them? I mean, that was my next question. As Greg says, unstoppable, Calvin. What do you think? Is there anyone, I mean, who can stop them? Can teams catch up, you know? Stopping them is one thing, but like to make the gains that they have made as far as personnel, they've got some of the best minds on the bench, they got some of the best players on the pitch. How do you catch up to, you know, something that's been cooking for so long, and you're seeing something a long way ahead of what other clubs have been able to achieve so far?
I think stopping, yes, we can move away from it, but I think managing them, Sundowns are manageable. You look at the likes of PSG with the galaxy of stars that they have in comparison to Sundowns. You look at the two and you look at the in the country Sundowns. Also, they can be managed in a way. It just takes players having to stick to the game plan tactically and know what Sundowns possess at the end of the day. Because Sundowns are a team that loves to play. Allow them to play in areas that they're not going to hurt you. Yes, they might be forcefully trying to build and opening you up, because Sundowns play a game of chess, patience. They move you from the left to right, try to open the center and then penetrate through. Most of their goals come through the middle. So what we were looking at this point, we're looking at the Sundowns that is very fluid on their play, very disciplined. Their tactical game is always frustrate teams not to have position. Keep it as much as you can, make the other teams run. One of the opposite, if the opposition sleep, then they can always have that opening. They have all the tactical work planned out when they know if a team sits back, where they're going to unlock a team on the wider areas by having an overload on the wider areas, having more players moving into that in that direction to have a free space on the other zone. Meaning you play from one side and then you switch play. Then you have incoming players coming late into the box with the likes of Shishi being the creator and the one that always stabilizes the midfield and make sure that the Jalis maintain the consistency of breaking down attack quickly, having a counter attack, making sure that they come back and if they can't go forward, they don't force a move. They will always rebuild and let the team come up so they can find spaces behind.
Okay, let's welcome now, in terms of our panel, Velile Mnyandu joining us now live on the Zoom meeting. Good evening, Velile. We know you've had a long, hard day at work, so thank you so much for making time to join us on the subject of Mamelodi Sundowns. We're discussing, obviously you are literally on the ground as far as knowing what's happening with the clubs within our league. What next for these guys? Because we see a well-oiled machine at the weekend. I'm asking the guys if anyone can stop them. But from what you can ascertain from the mood at the club, from the mood with the coaches and the players, the trajectory is up. But what are their targets along the way? If you know, as far as the club is concerned, their ambitions for the next 12 months or so.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening. Welcome. We're just missing a midfielder. We missed a midfielder that can make that passes. So we are here now.
So you're missing a maestro. The maestro is finally here.
Pulling the strings.
I'll be here spraying those passes. The old Dr. Kumalo, the late Shoes Motshwari, But I think very interesting topic that you are having on now, Sundowns. Actually, yesterday I tweeted and I said these guys are ruthless, because I had caught the first half, and I felt, okay, maybe TS Galaxy can do something here, maybe steal a point. Hey, Sundowns. And I was coming back from work. And then when I got home, I think it was just the 50th, in fact, around the 60th minute. These guys, they're already leading 2-0. And I was like, this Sundowns team is ruthless, But I think it is a continuation of the work, because if you look at it, Sundowns, especially when you talk about Sundowns, you always compare Sundowns to Chiefs and Pirates. They have a more stable technical team compared to the other teams, So it's for on their side, it's been more about continuity, also building a new team and modifying a team, by the way, because as you also seen that Sundowns is also going through a phase of refreshing the team. You've seen them cutting some of the old guard, some of them retiring, some being released. I mean, you look at what's going on now with Hlompo. You look at Mabunda. Mabunda, okay, didn't play last season. You look at Langerman, So, and I wouldn't even say that they've found their rhythm yet fully, And we saw this. I mean, if you remember the team of Pitso Mosimane, which won a treble, I mean, that team was not even on the second gear, If you look at that team, but they wanted to win a treble. So it tells you about this absolute dominance that this team is going through. Yes, as Mazola had asked in the press conference that we attended yesterday about the resources, yes, the resources are part
Make
of
a
it.
difference. Yeah.
Yes, but also still the resources
Have to be managed right. Yeah.
the resources don't play football. You know what I mean? Somebody has to put together those resources
Sure.
because I will tell you about the team of Henry Michel. I will tell you about the team of Khabas. I will tell you about even before Niaskins. I think there was a coach even before Henry Michel. Those guys, they would be parading 14, 15 new signings every season and cream of the crop. But Sundowns still won nothing, you know? And even when those guys left, there were no structures, you know? But then came Pizzo in 2012. Then he built the structures. And after building the structures, then there was the success. And if you look now, even after he's left, they are still more like operating on a similar model because even the current technical team, with the exception of Coach Steve, they were there. You know what I mean? So as I've said here before, I feel that technically, Sundowns have got the structure that is a model of delivery.
Yeah.
You know, in modern football. And for me, as long as they've got the structure that they've got now, I don't see anyone taking over from them. You know, you know, and
for sure.
Yes, and even some of the clubs that are struggling now, they're still going to struggle because the model is wrong. You know, and I don't know how many times we've said this to say we cannot be in 2021, but you're still operating on a 90s model. It doesn't work. And you see, the difficult part with the modern way of doing things in football is that it doesn't want shortcuts.
For sure. You have to trust the process. Yeah.
Exactly.
You have to trust the process. Yeah.
Exactly. If you're doing this, you do it
to the end.
To the end. You know? To the end. Yes, maybe there are other areas that Sundowns is lacking in, and maybe those are some of the things they're trying to address now. But when it comes to the core business of the game, football, they're unmatched.
And who do you think is the closest to disrupting that, Velile?
I think when you look closely, you can say Pirates are close. They can, but I'm still not entirely convinced. You know, but you can say they've got some good elements,
right?
In them,
but not the whole package.
Yes. And also, even there, it will take having, and that's why for me, if I'm at Pirates, I would understand why Pirates can go with the two coaches that they have now, till the end of the season, because here are the two guys. Kamza is still there. So here, okay. So here are the two guys who have, in my opinion, their best place in the league, both of them, has been number 4. Fadlu at Maritzburg, Mandla Ncikazi last season at Golden Arrows.
Sure.
So if you are going to bring someone to be on top of them, who's that person? And what has that person done? You understand what I mean? You know? So rather continue that process. But you know, sometimes when it comes out, we say every club has got its model.
Yeah.
Sundowns has got its model, and even the Sundowns model, in my opinion, also has got its flaws. But it's working currently. You know, because they've got the best talent. You know?
Sure.
But where I feel that the Sundowns model then becomes problematic for us as the nation now, it's also robbing us as a nation of some players. You know what I mean? If you look at Grant Megaman, here's a boy who should have been at the Olympics.
Sure.
He cut out in the qualifiers to qualify them for the Olympics, but he couldn't get game time. You know, and then you come to Ngobeni. I know it's still early in the season. It's still early in the season. But you come to Ngobeni, Swiss Ngobeni, and here's a boy who was also one of the leading left backs or left wing backs. But you don't even see him on the bench.
For sure.
You know, and if I'm Zimbabwe and I'm playing in the World Cup qualifiers and I'm not getting some of my players who are overseas, at least I would say, in South Africa I've got Divine Lunga. Play. You understand? So that's just the tricky part about it, that it robs the talent, So, and that's why I'm happy when I see a player like Putumela comes on, and he scores.
He takes his chance. Yeah, exactly.
Takes his chance. Yes. Because sometimes also we can blame the technical team for not selecting some players, but some players are selected and then they don't take the chance.
Right.
So as I've said, every model has got its positives and negatives, but when it comes to Sundowns, we have to admit that currently theirs has got more positives than negatives.
Okay, guys. Well, I want to touch on the two other results that happened, well, the big ones, the 2-3-0s from the weekend. One saw SuperSport United beating Swallows 3-0, and the other saw Stellies winning against Cape Town City 3-0. Kelvin, which of those two kind of picked your interest as far as the result is concerned? I mean, they're both quite interesting, but maybe the one for Swallow is a bit more disastrous because there's rumors now that the coach, Brandon Trutter, has been put on gardening leave, as they put it, because of the results not being forthcoming. So what do you make of the 2-3-0 results?
Yeah, I think the one that picked my brain was the one against the Cape Town Derby. What a game it was. End-to-end stuff. Seeing Judas Musiamedi scoring a brace against the coach that believes in him, that signed him, that gave him an opportunity to be the man that he is now, who is being now feared by most of the big team, because as he comes in, he scores goals. I think the usage of Musiamedi at the Stellies has worked wonders for them. He's one player that is always sneaking in the box, waiting for those half chances to drop, makes good runs, good combinations with the speed of the players that they have. I think the results that they got were justified in a way that how the other team defended at the end of the day. Both teams tried to play, with City also trying to play, but I think at the end of the day, Stellies were unmatched with their speed, also how they control the tempo of the game, and always I was surprised to see Eric Tinkler playing a high line, and knowing very well that with Judas Musiamedi, he's one of the strikers that would either hold the ball up or we look for this for a flick for those players to go behind, for him to come late in the box and finish those crosses and get the end of those crosses. Yeah, with some of the players that I didn't see much rising into the game were Nodada. I think he had a quiet game on that day. I think for me, he was one player that was promising to shine or disturb City on their play, because if they would have managed the game in terms of a positional play, try to slow down City, Stellies, because Stellies were always looking at City on a counter-attack. They'll play one or two strings and then they wait for them to come up. Same routine. Get the ball behind them with their speed. They were unmatched at the end of the day. So that was one of the most interesting games. Also with the Swallows one. Swallows one was interesting to watch in terms of how they defended with the experience that they had. With one of the player having a very, 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 very bad day at the office, which is
Mr. CB,
conceding a penalty. It was just a disastrous day. I think it was for his teammates at the back, with the keeper trying to get him into the game. You can't make such mistakes at that level. It was bound to happen when the pressure was on him. But at the end of the day, it's just that he needs to know that now this is a higher league. Such mistakes that are being made are costing a team. Look at the coach now, he's placed on the gardening leave. It's just based on that result. It was a heavy score. I think maybe they didn't expect this, but I think they're pushing the panic button too fast. I think Truta has done an amazing job in forming that team, even though they still lack one of the personalities up front and also players. They haven't replaced Ngobo's position. They've left it open, and they are trusting the players, that the pack that they have, to help them in that defensive line. I think if they can boost from the defense in the middle, or try and get another striker or another midfielder, and maybe 2 center backs also, to cover up the space, the position that has been left up by Ngobo, because Ngobo has saved them a lot. Now we're starting to see the cracks that they can't deal with it, because Truta is one coach that enjoys building from the back and seeing the game flow all the way up.
Greg, I want to know, in the WhatsApp group for the goalkeepers, is Hugo Marks in there? And what were you guys telling him about the 50-50? I don't know, it looked more like a 70-30. But what did you make of Judas's, I don't know, I mean, they were both going for the ball, and then Judas just seems to bump him out the way. As a goalkeeper, did you see a foul in that? Anything wrong with that?
Okay, there's leagues, in terms of European League. Let me go there in terms of England. That's a beautiful, there's no infringement there. I think that reference is coming to South African League now. But my surprise is, you cannot stop and wait for the ref to make decision for you. You better make a save, or you make a tackle. Let it be, you make a save first, and now later on they can say, okay, it's a foul, or maybe the ref can blow. But I just think, it was unacceptable. You have to play to the whistle. You have to play to the whistle, most especially as a goalkeeper. I mean, that's the easier goal Judas will ever score in his career again. I just think that was a, easier goal he's going to score. But you never know. I mean, I just feel like that day, City were just off the park, in terms of how Stellis play against them. For City to concede on set piece, I just think, it's one thing I didn't expect them. We know with Eric Tinkler, I know he set up his defense very well in terms of dead balls, from throwing, from corner kicks, for them to concede from there. I just think, yeah, this today is gonna be something else, and they proved me right, and Stellis, you're just all over them. It was a derby that everyone thought that is gonna be very tight one. But at the end of the day, that Sunday was a games of threes. Saturday, so I just think, City, they did very well before that game. You talk about the MTN 8 they are against Swallows, and how they play. They play very tight. But now going to the league game and concede 3, I just think Tinkler really need to fix the team. But I mean, it's not lost. I just feel like Stellis were just on that level, on that gear, on that day.
Okay, and I mean, in terms of the two coaches, Velile, you've got Eric Tinkler and Brandon Truta, similar sort of league form as far as their teams are concerned, yet the one is more under pressure. Could it have anything to do with the fact that Eswalos Bamzamile, they brought in 10 players, they gave him, I guess, the tools to try and give a bigger push of it? Why is he under more pressure than someone like Eric Tinkler?
Yeah, I think for starters, if you look at the 2 games in question, on a good day where people were converting chances, I don't think it should have ended 3-0 against the Cape Town City. There are some chances. They hit the post, I think, twice. They hit the post. So I think it's also a case of Stellis. That one is one of the derbies that I enjoyed. That was a real derby, end-to-end action. So when I look at the other game that you're talking about, Swallows, I don't think Brandon Truta, whatever is going through now, is something that just for this season. If you remember Swallows, I think in the last 11 matches, last 10 matches, he only had 1 win there, and the club could have easily
pulled the trigger,
finished in a CAF interclub competition position last season. What 20 draws if they had maybe converted 4 or 5 of those draws. I mean, they could have even given Sundowns something serious to ponder when it comes to the league title race. So I think with Brendan Trotter, it's one of those situations where you must not just limit it to this season.
Okay.
You must start from last season to say, was it a case of, okay, they said maybe, let's give him the first 5 matches. And we always say these things. We always say these things to say, each and every time you are getting closer to the international break, there's going to be some casualties. You know?
Yeah, so the new guy can come in and have some time.
Exactly. And you know, until last week, I had thought that it was Coach Brendan Trotter who brought Coach Simo, but I had no management. You know, so sometimes, yeah. So this is the reality of football. This is the reality of football.
Sorry to venture.
But also.
Didn't Simo wasn't Simo working with Trotter at Tongati?
Yes. But also you can't ignore what you hear.
Oh yes.
You know, you can't ignore what you hear. You know, but also I think even besides that, a coach. You know what is disturbing for me is that just a few weeks ago the Bafana coach was impressed with Swallows. You know,
yeah.
You know, yeah. Because in reality, when you really look at it, it's still too early to press panic buttons. I agree with you, Source. It's still too early, but here I get the feeling that this is not just about this season.
Yeah.
You know? Because if you remember, this talk didn't start this season. This talk of possibly looking at other options around the coach. You know, it comes from last season, and I think for me, if you look at, they've got Saling from Pirates. They've got Tibedi. They've got Jürgen Sassman from Chiefs. You know, from Sundowns, it's a host of players that they've got. Makhalwa, Jody February, Katlego Mohammed, Tebogo Langerman, you know? So you can see how the big Gauteng tree has boosted Swallows. And remember, when you're on loan, it also means that you're not paying the salaries in full, you know? And when you look at the talent there, he's got Olympians. And if it's not Olympians, it's players who were supposed to go to the Olympics. You know, he's got the cream of the crop. So, but then again, it's still too early in the season. You don't expect him to have put this team together. So hence I'm saying, when it comes to him, let's not just limit it to the results in the past few weeks.
Okay. Well, we're almost out of time, but Velile, I don't want to go without getting your thoughts on what's happening at Kaizer Chiefs, obviously with Stuart Baxter and the experiment at the weekend that went wrong against Royal AM. What is the current mood? What are the murmurs coming out of Naturina about his current campaign and, you know, his return? Obviously not living up to the billing of the past.
We've just said with Coach Trotter, it's still too early. Don't you think even with Baxter, it's still too early? Or
I think that. I think he might have more time, but I mean, you know, don't ignore what you're told. I heard a wise journalist once say on a show about 10 minutes ago, this very show actually, said, you gotta believe. So, you know, yes, it might be too early, but has it crossed the minds of the powers that be?
If you know how Kaizer Chiefs operates, I think it was for the first time under Solinas when they pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
But then again, they pulled that trigger, I think it was around December when they pulled the trigger, you know, because they could see that the direction. But I think with Coach Stewart, they're still going to give him some time because look, his track record in the country is not that bad, you know, especially at club level. He's got a good track record. But I think the reality is that this is not 2012 to 2015 when he was at Chiefs. A lot has changed, you know. A lot has changed now. Also, maybe when he was
Has he changed enough, Belila? Because people criticize him for not changing.
When he was at SuperSport, a lot has changed now, and I'm saying this based on the fact that firstly, let's talk about the game that they've just lost this past weekend
against Royal AM. Yes.
Yes. That game, you must know that yes, they are in name they are playing Royal AM, but they were playing Bloemfontein and Celtic.
For sure, yeah, we did point that out.
Celtic is a team they have not beaten in the last 3 matches before that game. You know what I mean? 2 draws and the 3-1 loss in the bubble. You know,
right?
So this tells you that. That's why I was laughing at people talking about how they're going to Royal AM, they must give them 5. No, but look at the games that Royal AM has also been playing. They've been very close, you know. So football evolves, you know. Yes, the coach might have done well when he was here, but a lot has changed now, and that's why, if you have a team, you must believe in your team. You know, you must believe in your team and even the people that you are working with, because no man, you cannot be a lone ranger. You understand? They are the ones, and that's why for me, I had a problem with the coach's statement. Because I asked the question on Nobo, you know. So I had a question. I had a problem when he said he doesn't know Nobo because he was not here last season. You know what I mean?
Imagine.
That's what your assistants are there for.
Exactly.
You understand? That's what your assistants are there for. You know, this is one of the things that I liked with Coach Hugo Bruce. In his first press conference with us, he said he is looking for an assistant coach who is not just going to be a ball boy and put the cones.
Sure.
You know, you see, foreign coaches, they must come here with that mentality. If a foreign coach is coming here with a mentality that he knows better than the locals and the locals cannot tell him anything, this is how it goes. Because Kamza, how many times, you see, you were asking me about Sundowns earlier. And I gave you, and I said, this is what Sundowns is doing, and this is what places them. You understand?
Yeah.
Because there, we in the other day, we were having a press conference with Rulani, you know, and he was saying, when it comes to the recruitment, you know, he's giving credit to his team of scouts. Ezra, Terra. You count all the scouts they've got there, you know,
right.
The data analysts and all those people, because sorry, those people play a critical role. You know,
sure.
We might be talking about recruitment, but at the end of the day, that recruitment it informs the 3-0 that Sundowns got. You know?
I hear you. It's not all just by chance. I hear you, really.
Yes.
Like there's planning.
So yeah, because it informs that. Because I'm saying, Kamza, when I say a Kutumela making those runs, I mean, for me, that Sundowns goal, that third goal, it was just a confirmation of, wow, this team, the passing, you know, the weight of the pass coming from Hashim Domingo to Kutumela, the run from Kutumela, receiving it and pushing it, you know.
Yeah.
So for him to be compatible with the rest of the team, after having played only 4 or 5 matches with the rest of the team, it means that the analysis team has done its work to inform the 3 coaches on the strengths and the weaknesses of this player. You understand? So that's why on receiving players, the new players, even if he's a new coach, on receiving players, surely at Chiefs, there's an analysis department that would have given him to say, this is the new players, these are their strengths and weaknesses. And in fact, you arrive at a good time when a player is also playing in the COSAFA Cup.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And playing at that COSAFA Cup, they play 6 matches.
Yeah. No, I hear
0
you.
goals considered. 0 goals considered. Clean sheets.
Yeah.
And there, who was his defensive partner? It's the man who's marshalling the defense at Sundowns now. Roshan Direk. You understand?
So that's
And
the
he's
difference,
leading in the national team. You understand? So I just think, yeah, and this is the challenge now, because Kaizer Chiefs also is starting to have injuries, and this is the other worry of Chiefs, because also we've been exposed to a lot of these things like periodization and all. I'm not sure if Chiefs, I don't know, because you know, we've been exposed to people of periodization. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure about the Chiefs' sports science department, if it's also the best in that space, you know, because sometimes I also look at when it comes to physical conditioning as well. Sundowns had KB, they replaced him with Radio. You know, at Amazulu they've got who's the guy who was the Chiefs before? There's got Josh, you know. Josh is another periodization expert, you know. So these are the things, for me, I feel that, yeah, we can go on and on and on and on and on and on. And
Right.
sometimes, you know, earlier we were talking about models, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would understand why a club like Pirates would not wait for a coach to make a call on a player. Because I believe that you cannot wait for a coach to be making a call on a player. Because the players don't belong to the club. They to the coach. They belong to the club.
Right.
You know?
And
yes, you have to sign players who are also compatible to the coach's game. But at some stage, you must make the call on what is best for the club.
Facts.
You know?
Those are facts,
so
yes.
This past weekend, a player who could have been a Chiefs scored a brace against Chiefs and dominated them, you know, and had a very good game. And this is a player that they could have had possibly even Mahara, you know.
The whole man of the match, they could have had him for free.
So you know, sometimes football is not even about this difficult decisions that have to be made, you know. It's about being streetwise, understanding the situation, and also understanding that Kamza, as much as I was here before when we were doing the podcast on front runners, but also because now I've not been here for weeks or months, things would have changed, you know.
For sure.
And I must assess the situation and adapt.
Of course, accordingly. You're right. And let's see. Maybe that's what Mr. Baxter will do. He's got time. Like you say, they're not going to push the panic button just yet.
Yes, because if I don't adapt,
you're going to die. Adapt or die. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the robust discussion. We've hit 10 o'clock and a good 90 minutes of reflecting on the weekend that was. Vilile Mnyandu, thank you so much for joining us towards the end. Calvin and Greg, appreciate you guys as always. Tim has already knocked off. To Fidel behind the scenes, thank you so much. To everybody who's watching, thanks again for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed some of the insights as we look ahead. There's some midweek fixtures happening. Arrows in action against Amazulu and Maritzburg take on Gallants, with Amazulu and Gallants making safe passage to the next round of the CAF competition. So we'll discuss that all in about a week's time when we have a bit more time. But for myself, Gamzambata, and my panel, gents, you've been great. Have a good evening to you guys.